Perhaps you've been to a recovery group. There's a lot of churches that are built on the idea of recovery, and many other churches that help those who have need for recovery in various ways. Or if you haven't been to one, perhaps you've seen how that's depicted on TV. And I can tell you that I need to go to a recovery group. We all do. Because one of those things that we need to recover from is sin. Hi, my name is Andy, and I struggle with sin. And one of the sins that I struggle most with, it's been more in the past perhaps than now, but it's still prevalent, is the idea of pride. I must admit that my pride does not get the best of me as it used to, but I am prideful, and I am also proud. I am proud of some of the things that I've been able to accomplish. I'm proud of who I am generally as a person, but being proud doesn't necessarily lead to being prideful. See, being prideful is taking the idea of being proud too far. It's really the inverse of humility. The other day I talked about C.S. Lewis's definition of humility in Sunday's message, that humility is not thinking less of yourself, it is thinking of yourself less. Well, with that statement as a guide, I kind of tried to think, well, how might that relate to pride? And I think pride might be defined this way. Pride is not thinking highly of yourself, it is thinking of yourself too highly. Many first century Jews thought too highly of themselves because they were God's chosen people. Now, let's be real. Having that title is much better than having a title such as the people who God has cursed. But just because the Jews were privileged with that title did not give them special treatment in the sense that they were free to do whatever it was that they desired. In fact, the opposite was true. They were privileged, but that privilege had conditions that they needed to be obedient and that had responsibilities. To be a light to the world, or a light to the Gentiles, as it says in Isaiah. Unfortunately for the Jews, they took this privilege of being God's chosen people to mean that there was almost a certain salvation for them as a people, not just for individuals. Now, sure, the really evil Jew mightn't be worthy, but, if you're a Jew, even the bad Jew is better than the best Gentile, right? Well, we return to pride with such a statement like that. And to be a Jew was pretty apparent in that particular day. See, a Jew was marked physically, especially, if you were a male, you were literally marked physically. To tell a Jew, you could tell by what they ate, what their dietary restrictions were. As a Jew, you could tell by when they did or they didn't do anything, because they would observe the Sabbath. So they had these external markers that identified them as a Jew. And this approach to life, this obedience to God is fine, but it caused many Jews to think that they had a claim on God and on His righteousness and on His justice. And let's face it, there are many people in the church today that are the same. Maybe it is how faithfully one attends a service, or how often someone does devotion, or a particular place or a particular group of people that someone serves. Maybe it's how much money is given, or having a capacity to serve in a particular position within a church. I have seen pride in those areas in my own life in the past, and certainly in the lives of others. And I have to watch this myself now. But I also have a scripture reference for myself that pops up on my phone occasionally as a reminder to me. And each time it pops up on my phone, I recite it out loud. That particular reference is 1 Corinthians 10:12, and each time that pops up, it's just maybe every couple of weeks now. It used to be more frequent. But that verse says, if anyone thinks that he stands, let him take heed lest he fall. It's a verse about not being too prideful. But there's another verse that causes me some fear within the Bible, and not always in a healthy way. The words of that verse are specifically in the latter part of Luke 12:48. And you may know these words in this way. The translation I use is a little bit different, but you may know these words this way. To whom much is given, much is required or expected. These 9 words should remove any sense of pride for anyone wanting to please God. These words require a sense of humility, not pride. These 9 words should help us understand that any privilege we may have or that we think we have is really a responsibility given to us by God. So we must choose to live up to that responsibility. We must choose to pour contempt on our pride, not to have contempt for others.